surrounded by the Elk River on Baker's Island in Webster Springs, West Virginia. Welcome to the annual Woodchopping Festival of Webster County. Hello, I'm Keith Spears, and an added air of excitement has been placed into this area this year. This annual festival, the 15th, has been turned into a world championship event. Men from throughout the United States and around the globe will be coming here to this small town of 1,000 people to compete for cash prizes and huge trophies as they go against each other in one of the world's oldest industries, wood chopping. Joining me is Cliff Carpenter, a native of this area. Cliff, you've been here a long time, and this festival undoubtedly is one that people look forward to.
They really build themselves up for it, even from year to year, and they expect to come out on Memorial Day weekend here in Webster Springs to see a lot of top-notch championship chopping, and we certainly are going to have it here today.
The weather has been on again, off again. The sun has come out. It has rained and even snowed in some areas around Webster Springs.
We're not only going to be bringing the top contest in this international event to you, but we'll also be going behind the scenes to see what makes this gathering so spectacular. We'll be watching how just about everyone gets into the act, from tobacco spitting to turkey calling, and even vying for the crown of Miss Woodchopping Festival. We'll also be looking at the industry that started all of this, lumbering, both today and yesterday. In today's competition, we're going to be seeing 5 of the existing world champions in the various competitions. One of those comes from Youngstown, Ohio. He's Rudy Dettmer. Rudy's a commercial forester, in the tree business, if you would. And he's also a professional chopper. He goes to a lot of fairs and to a lot of festivals around the nation. He likes to do it as a business. Rudy's a 6-time world champion. He's been in the business about 13 years of traveling the circuit. He presently holds the world champion in springboard and crosscut. Jim Alexander from Colden, Victoria, Australia, truly making this an international event. Alexander is a trucking businessman. He calls it cottage trucking. He says in Australia that means you carry just about anything. He's 49 years of age. He's the Australian all-around champion in wood chopping and presently holds the world title in wood chopping. Arden Cogar, 45 years of age, from Webster Springs. He's a hometown boy. One of the reasons we have this festival here is because Arden Cogar has been so adamant in his actions in this whole world championship. 24 years he's been competing, 15 years a world champion. He is one of the few champions that still remain in the business. He's a commercial logger. He owns his own business just outside of Webster Springs. Dave Geer from Lisbon, Connecticut. Dave's a former logger. For 2 decades he traversed the hills and the mountains of the Northeast. He's now in the gravel business, 54 years of age. He's been competing for 32 years. 29 of those years he has had a world championship. Dave Geer. Sven Johnson of Jewett City, Connecticut. He's a power equipment dealer, 49 years of age. Of those 49 years, he's been competing for 23. He's had 13 world championships. Joining him today, we'll be looking at his son, Ron Johnson, also, carrying on the tradition in the family. Those are the 5 world champions that we'll be seeing in action today. However, we have 55 in all who are going to be competing. Many of those, of course, looking to dethrone these men in the various events. All looking for the prize money, of course. It's being offered here, $500 for each first prize in each event. Today we're going to be looking at 5 world championship events. The crosscut, 2 men getting together with a lot of unison, a lot of power, going through the log 2 times, using an old-time method to accomplish a very difficult task. And then we go to the more modern method, high-powered machines, the chainsaw event. 1 man working with a finely precision-tuned machine, getting up to 25 horsepower. And then the saws are put away, both the old and the new. The axes are brought out for the chopping contest. This is what most people have come to see. This is where sheer strength, brawn go together with some precision cutting. The standing block chop will be the first event here. Here the block is stood up much like the trunk of a tree. The crowd will undoubtedly be urging their favorites on here. The men have to swing sideways until the block is in two and it falls to the floor. The underhand chop. The competitors actually stand on the block, on the trunk if you would. They chop between their feet until it's all the way through. Heavy competition will be, no doubt, featured here. And then the underhand chop handicap. That's where the new man, the amateur, the younger fellow, gets his opportunity. The world champions have to wait to allow the others to have their turn here. Our first event, precision cutting, the crosscut. Two-man teams working in unison with all the timing and strength they can muster. And timing is the key factor here. And working too fast or too slow will cause us all to bind or a foot to slip, losing valuable seconds and possibly a championship. Two-man teams with 8 pairs of finalists going to the final championship series. They must use the basic two-man crosscut saw, much like that in use at the 19th century.
A lot of work involved here.
Yes, it is. They're putting out the equivalent here of probably a half hour steady work in about 10 or 15 seconds.
The preparation that's being made on the stage right now. Each man has a different leg length.
Each man has to set those pieces of wood there so that his feet match them, so he can get some strength there and pressure while he's pulling that crosscut.
On the right side of the screen, we'll be looking at Paul and Bill Cogar from West Virginia, Webster Springs area, West Virginia. Both of them loggers, young men, the Cogar family. To the left, Charlie Wine and Kenny Currents, also of central West Virginia. These are kind of new into the activities.
I'm ready. Get ready, set, go. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, pick a table out there, bring it on. What do you say? Bring it right on the room now, ladies and gentlemen. Bring it on, come on. Let's try it well. Let's give them a great big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Great big hand. Ladies and gentlemen, there's an awful lot of you getting right up on the fence, 4 or 5 rows.
In the first heat, both very close. Officials checking their watches now. We're going to be coming up with the times for Charlie Wine and Kenny Currents, 11.75 seconds. For Paul and Bill Cogar, 10.63. In the second heat, 2 teams from New England. Tom and Richard Geer, both from Lisbon, Connecticut, brothers, sons of the famous Dave Geer. Bob Hoffman and Donald Dolliver, both of these men from Vermont, be competing here in the second heat. Remember the time now. The time to beat is 10.63, set up by the Cogar brothers of Webster Springs. Paul and Bill Cogar have set the original.
Are we ready, boys? All the time is ready. Get ready, set, go. Come on, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring these folks home now. Show them what real Webster County hospitality is like. Come on, bring them right in there. So they can eat. Let's get them go. Let's get them go. I tell you, that's really cutting. I think they might have stayed at 10 seconds. Awfully close. Awfully close.
That's the second heat. It looked like that possibly somebody may have been injured then. We'll check out that later. But the winning times, as they bring it out, it looked like that Donald Dolliver may have nicked his leg just as that competition ended. The foot may have slipped just a little bit. The times, Tom and Richard Geer coming in at 10.88. Bob Hoffman and Donald Dolliver, 11.84. Not quite good enough to catch the Cogar brothers, Paul and Bill. Remember that time right now stands at 10.63.
Next team, get ready, please.
Donald Dolliver apparently has cut his leg on that last competition, the saw cut into his pants and then, of course, into the leg under it. And Dolliver is going to be treated by an EMT squad, which is located here. And now the third heat. Once again, the name Cogar appears. This time Arden and Jack Cogar, brothers, a two-man crosscut team. And that name continues to crop up here at this woodchopping festival. If there was one man who has brought fame in woodchopping to this small village, it's this man, Arden Cogar. He's been a lumberman since he was 16 years old and a lifelong resident of Webster County. One other point is that Arden Cogar is a 15-year holder of the World Championship in woodchopping. In the days leading to this contest, Arden prepared himself for the competition by merely going about his routine business. What about the logging industry? You've been in it for several years, and probably since you were very young.
Very young, yeah, 16 years old.
Did you start this as a family business with mom, dad?
Oh, I guess so. We all worked together like that, yeah.
What about the changes over that same period of time in the logging industry? Are the same number of people in the business?
Yeah, pretty well much the same, yeah. The same people started. It's like Jack, my brother there. He's been with me about 22 years, and we work together like that.
You were raised in this area of West Virginia?
Right. I was raised right in the mall here.
What about the changes? The people move in, move out? More population here now?
No, I don't think they are. I think there was more people back when I was a kid running up and down the road. And the hills is all cleaned up here now. I see brace all over them. You see, the people don't farm like they did back then. Back then, if they didn't raise what to eat, you know, they didn't have nothing to eat much. They'd raise hogs and cattle, and they'd raise a big cornfield. Usually about every family up and down this river, I've hoed corn all over this creek here, would raise at least 4 acres of corn a year, you know, and that's how they got their bread.
You act like you enjoy this.
Oh, I do. I like to see summer come, you know. After a hard winter, I like to get out and get in pretty good shape, you know, and win a few championships, and I enjoy it.
They'll start with the gun. 10.63 is the time to beat.
Are the timers ready? Are the contestants ready? Get ready, set, go. Get on, boys. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, 3 more. 3 more, ladies and gentlemen. Give them a great big hand out there. Come on out. Hey, let's get them go. We're getting up in and go. That was a close one. Almost the dead heat there. Give them another great big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Come on now. Larry and Eddie Sandy from O'Leary, West Virginia. Nearby, 10 miles away. Arden and Jack.
A very quick time. It looked like that possibly Larry and Eddie Sandy had taken the world champion Arden Cogar in this event. We'll find out when the judges come in. A very close one. However, it did look like the Sandy brothers' chop fell just a bit sooner. We'll find out. The clock is now being read. The judges are amassing their scores. We have a total of 5 judges with stopwatches here on this event. As they compare times, they'll make sure that each one of them have a verifiable time to turn in. And now we're bringing them in. They're bringing them in to us now. We have the times for Arden and Jack Cogar, 11:64. Larry and Eddie Sandy, 10:73. They have still not matched Bill and Paul Cogar of Webster Springs, but Larry and Eddie Sandy have brought it in close at 10.73. Only 1/10 of a second behind. The next heat here will be Dave Geer and Rudy Dettmer, the present world champions in this cross-cutted event. The competitors will be Jim Colbert of Winsted, Connecticut, and Pete McGivney of West Hampstead, New York. Colbert is a state maintenance man out of Connecticut. He climbs trees for a living, by the way. And Pete McGivney, well, he's a broker. Works out of a brokerage house on Long Island. Not your typical lumberjacks that we've seen here today. Heavy competition about ready to begin. Dave Geer and Rudy Dettmer, the world champion.
contestants about ready. Timer's ready. Get ready, set, go. Come on, fellas. The last one, ladies and gentlemen. Give them a great big hand. Bring them on here now. Oh, they're really going at it. Really going at it. Look at them go, would you? Look at them go. We're trying to have a champion after this cut's made. We'll have a champion made for you in just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be long at all.
Dave Geer and Rudy Dettmer have taken Jim Colbert and Pete McGivney rather handily. Right there you saw it, Pete McGivney and Colbert having their troubles. The saw binding just for a split second, but that cost them dearly. We'll check when the times come in, but it looked like at least 2 seconds difference. We'll see. The officials coming in with the stopwatches now. Jim Colbert and Pete McGivney at 11.92. And Dave Geer and Rudy Dettmer with 9.34. It looks like they may have taken this championship. They may have done it. We'll find out in just a moment as the official timer comes out. Yes, it's 9.34. Dave Geer and Rudy Dettmer, who are the world champions in this particular event, have shown their stuff today. They are showing that what they are, world champions in effect, and they have taken the Paul and Bill Cogar prize away from those two young men from Webster Springs. 9.34 seconds is the official time, and that gives them first place. So here's the rundown in the finals of this championship, the crosscut competition here at Webster Springs. Number one is Dave Geer and Rudy Dettmer with 9.34. At second place, Paul and Bill Cogar of Webster Springs, 10.63. At third place, from Bolaire, West Virginia, another brother team, Larry and Eddie Sandy, 10.73. And the other brother team, once again, Cogars are in on it, Arden and Jack Cogar with 11.64. Those are your top four places. Those are the winners here in the crosscut competition. The word has just come in on Donald Dolliver, who was injured in the first heat of this competition. Dolliver not only cut that pant that we saw, but also sliced into his leg rather deeply. At last word, about 40 stitches were taken in Dolliver's leg. He was taken to a local hospital here. We have not seen him back on the grounds. We hope for him the best. We understand that he is in satisfactory condition, that he'd like to be back out here, but he is at the hospital at this point. Our second event, the chainsaw competition. The rules state the men must stand, arms outstretched. At the sound of the gun, they must reach down, start the machine. Raise the machine, cut once down, once back up, and a third time back through. When the log hits the floor, time is stopped. Sven Johnson from Jewett City, Connecticut, has a son by the name of Ron. Ron is qualified already for the Tournament of Kings that will be held down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Sven Johnson is a 15-time world champion himself. He's a power equipment dealer, and he talked about these very powerful chainsaws. Let's look at this machine and compare it, say, to the standard one we'll go down to the hardware store and purchase.
Well, actually, we start out with just an ordinary saw. Basically, this was a professional woodcutter's saw to begin with. Probably had about 10 horsepower to begin with. And we take that same engine and we rework the ports. We put stroke crankshafts in them. We have special manifolds made so that we can put 3 carburetors on there. We have 2 here on the top, 1 on the bottom. 3 carburetors. Then this long block apparatus you see is what we call a tuned exhaust system or an expansion chamber. It isn't to quiet the saw down, it's to give it more horsepower. And we come up with a saw that probably has around 25 horsepower. We started out with 10.
Any special fuel mixture you'll use?
Well, we're not in these, but some of the machines you'll see out here today will be running alcohol and nitromethane. These particular saws that Ron and I have are just running regular gas.
Now, your son was the one that topped in the elimination round. Did you expect that?
Well, actually, I expected I would, but it worked out the other way around.
Okay.
Okay, the leader in this tournament in the elimination round was one Ron Johnson with 5.1. He's been in the business sawing these things for about 10 years. He works with his father, Sven Johnson, who we were talking to a little bit ago, in Jewett City, Connecticut. Ron is only 23 years old, but he has 5 world championships. Now, you'll be seeing in just a moment as they start these machines up and let them warm up just a little bit. According to Sven, you know, they're a little bit cranky. These have been somewhat tinkered with to make them a bit more powerful. His competitor will be Jim Colbert. Now, Jim lives also up in the Connecticut area. Right there are some problems that many people may not realize with these machines. They may go off, as Jim Colbert of Winstead, Connecticut just found out. Ron Johnson, an easy winner in that heat. We'll have the time in just a few moments.
In heat number 2 on log 1 will be
5.33. He had a 5.1 in earlier elimination competition. Comes up with a 5.33, a little bit longer. Ron Johnson, by the way, has already qualified for that Tournament of Kings down in Charlotte, North Carolina, an earlier festival this year. The Tournament of Kings is being held for power saw competition. Once again, it'll be in Charlotte, North Carolina in September. Men from different festivals around the United States, the Norway, Sweden area of the world, Europe, South America, Australia, and Japan will be competing there. That'll be in September. Winners of today's event will be there. Should Ron Johnson come in first in today's event, by the way, they will be taking the second place winner since he has already qualified. In the second heat of competition, to the left is Richard Leith of Lathan, Ohio. He's a power equipment dealer, 49 years of age. And to the right is Paul Cogar from Webster Springs. He's a logger, and he is going to be competing in this. Yesterday, Paul Cogar had 5.64. Richard Leith had 6.35. Now, you watch. The men will have to stand now. They'll have to stand with outstretched arms. They place the saws just right so they can reach down and start them rapidly. They must reach down, start the saw, and then make their cuts.
Ready? Get ready, set.
3 very quick cuts. Looked like that Paul Cogar was in by quite a bit. His time coming up as the judges check their clocks. Richard Leith of Lathan, Ohio, coming in with a 7.39. 7.39. And Paul Cogar, you remember Paul was in the crosscut, he comes in with a 6.27, not quite good enough to match that of Ron Johnson's, but that does put him in second place. And you remember, should Ron Johnson win this event, then the second place man will be going to that Tournament of Kings in Charlotte, North Carolina. Into the third heat, once again, 2 Cogars in competition. And a correction here, we were talking about Paul Cogar a while ago. That was actually his brother Bill. Paul Cogar is now in this event, both of them from Webster County here in West Virginia. Arden Cogar, of course, that 15-time world champion, will be competing in this event. Right there, you'll see the pose that they must stand. Arden Cogar and Paul Cogar. That was a dead heat. That was a dead heat. We're going to see what the times are on that, but that was a close one here this afternoon. It looked like that possibly Arden Cogar had a bit of problem that time. Paul Cogar looked like may have just edged him out. We'll see what the times are going to be. The time as it stands right now, 6:27 for Paul Cogar. And for Arden Cogar, looks like it's going to be 6:67. He did have a few problems. And now into the competition, it's Harry Bodaker and Gene Villeneuve. Bodaker once again from Zanesville, Ohio. Villeneuve from Vermont. Bodaker has been traveling the circuit to get into that final tournament of kings, but yesterday he had a few problems. He got into the final circuit, the final series, but not without a few complications. All right, he had a problem. He cut his slice just too thin, and he cut out. The time to beat Ron Johnson's 5.33 seconds. A very quick time for Harry Bodaker. Gene Villeneuve of Vermont having his troubles. Looks like he has broken a chain. The saw apparently has broken the chain, and of course that's going to take him out of competition real quick here. So he's going to be considered a cutout. He will not be in the competition, but Harry Bodaker's time was very fast, and we'll find out what it's going to be. Remember, the time to beat right now is 5.33 seconds. 5.33 set by world champion Ron Johnson of Jewett City, Connecticut. The judges are bringing the clocks in. They're comparing it. Now they have the time. Harry Bodaker of Zanesville, Ohio has a 4.86 time. A 4.86. That puts him into first place. And should no one else overcome that, he'll be the man that'll be going to Charlotte, North Carolina from today's event. 4.86, and I'm sure that Harry Bodaker is a very happy person at this point. He had his problems yesterday, but he had it all together today. The standing block chop. Once again, much like a tree, this is one that many people are familiar with, that the lumberjacks around this nation and around the world have often competed in.
In the early years, when everything used in logging was hand operated, the axe was one of the basic tools that they used to fell a tree. And one of the first steps was to cut a notch in the side of the tree to direct it the way that you wanted it to fall. We adjust that a little bit here and cut a notch on both sides of it all the way through so that we do get the block of wood falling off of the post.
In the first heat, we're going to be seeing two brothers. These are Geer brothers. They are Tom and Richard. They come both, of course, from Lisbon, Connecticut. They are sons of Dave Geer, the world champion for 29 years. Dave has been competing and won a world champion in some event every one of those years. These two boys will be the only ones in this first heat.
The judges ready? Get ready, set, move. Give my hand, ladies and gentlemen. They react, coach. Give my nice hand out there and help them on. Yes, sir. Put a finest young fellow to hit. There's a dead heat up now.
And there we have the competition between these two Geer brothers, between Richard and Tom Geer. Richard coming out just a little ahead, Tom taking his time, and you see some of the problems that can curtail when you come into a piece of hard wood.
yesterday's times. We'll see what they're going to compare with today. The judges coming in with the clocks now. It is Richard Geer. Yesterday at a time of 25:14, a little bit longer today, but still in there at 25.66. 25.66. His brother Tom coming in quite a bit later at 34.77. So the time to beat right now is that of Richard Geer at 25.66. Okay, coming up this round, we've got two men who have competed against each other before, and both of them are champions in their own right.
Yes, we have here on the left-hand side Jim Colbert out of Connecticut. He has been around in this business about 8 years. He'll be going in this heat against Arden Cogar, who has numerous world championships. We'll be watching them to see the best time.
In the elimination round of the standing block championship, Cogar came in first with, you ready for this, 16.04. 16 seconds is what he had in that, 16.04. It was Colbert who came in with a 26.85. 26.85. We'll see what the times are going to be here today.
Boys, you not ready? Are the timers ready? Get ready, set, go!
A tremendous effort that time. Arden Cogar, who came in yesterday with a 16.05. Looks like it's going to be close to 18. We'll find out what the official standing is in just a moment. He is the leading competitor here. He's the favorite. Not only is he hometown folk, but he is also one that people around the world have been watching in this standing block competition. The final tally on Cogar, 18.48. His competitor, Jim Colbert, came in a little later, 30.49. He's still under Tom Geer, but behind Richard Geer at this point in the competition. Into the third heat of competition in the standing block now. It is Rudy Dettmer from Youngstown, Ohio, six-time world champion. Yesterday in this competition, he had a time of 22.74. The other world champion, also in this same heat, Sven Johnson of Jewett City, Connecticut, a power equipment dealer. Yesterday, Sven's competition time was at 26.26. Sven, of course, is a 13-time world champion. He's 49 years of age. Rudy Dettmer's 34. We'll see how the age may be a factor in this particular competition.
Sven, you ready? Timers ready? Get ready, set, go! Come on, ladies and gentlemen, you got two of the world's best chopping for you. Help them out a little bit. All right, Rudy's got a pumpkin. Look at that, would you?
Rudy Dettmer comes out first. He got his axe caught, but he made it anyway. Rudy comes out of Youngstown, Ohio. He's a 34-year-old businessman, a commercial tree business he owns. He's also a professional chopper. He goes around to state fairs, to amusement parks, and puts on chopping exhibitions throughout the summer. Rudy's been in the business for 13 years, of champion of 6 of those, and he is the world champion springboard. Now, what that means is that he can run up to a tree, chop a notch in it, push in a board, stand on that board, chop another notch, put in a second board, climb on top of it, and chop the top of the tree out. That competition not being held here today, but one well-deserving. Takes a lot of strength, and I think you saw some of that in the shoulders of Rudy Dettmer. On the stage now, Jim Alexander from Australia and Dave Geer of Connecticut, 2 world champions in the final heat. time by Jim Alexander. It's going to be close. The time to beat, 18:48. 18:48 by Arden Cogar. It was Rudy Dettmer who came in close with a standing time right now, a 20.76. We'll find out what Jim Alexander's time was in just a moment. Looking at the times right now, it was Jim Alexander, 18:48. 18:48. Arden Cogar, 18:48. There's going to have to be a chop-off. 18:48 for both of these. Very good friends. Alexander, by the way, is staying at the home of Arden Cogar while he's here in the United States. Very good friends. And now we're finding that these two buddies are going to have a chop-off. They're going to go get a couple more logs. All the wood here has already been assigned. The winner, of course, determining the first in this event. The loser in that chop-off will be second. For third place, we do have the other listed here. For third place, looks like it's going to be Rudy Dettmer at 20.76 in the chopping, and Dave Geer into fourth place with 24.51. There is what we call the overall wood chopper, the overall champion of this festival, and the fact that these two men are going into a chop-off may then determine who that overall champion is going to be. Both of them are running very high in the ranks. The competition is very tough at this point. The winner of this event, of course, the chop-off itself, could be the final determining factor as to which one of these men will be the overall champion. Whether it's Arden Cogar or Jim Alexander, we'll have to wait and see. Festivals and competitions such as these bring back a lot of memories to many of the people assembled here. Old-timers like Ord Jordan, 76 years old, a man that lived in logging camps and rode the trains back through the mountains of central West Virginia in the early parts of the 20th century.
Was there any law enforcement any place back in the hills?
I've never seen none. No, you never seen any.
Will they have sheriffs or anything in the county?
Oh, they had sheriffs and right down around town.
Uh-huh.
No, you never seen nothing back in there.
Sheriff wouldn't get out of town then?
Oh, no, he's afraid to get back in them woods.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they'd be afraid to get back in the woods.
Yeah.
Them fellas back there was men.
Yeah.
They had muscles on them big enough to take care of fellas like that.
Before the railroad was taking the logs out,
They floated them by water.
how'd they do that?
They had splash dams. They'd fill the rivers full of water, of logs. When the river would raise, washed the logs out. Nearly all that time, poplar being taken out. No poplar was took out that had a hole in it. The water was all sound.
Well, it doesn't look like the rivers in West Virginia are deep enough to do that.
Well, they did. They did.
How would they get from one point to another if say they ran into shallow water, 6 inch or 8 inches deep? What'd they do?
Well, they'd wait for higher water. Bigger water.
Would they build any coffer dams or anything like that?
Oh, yes, they had dams. They had one right over here on Gratz Creek. Floated the logs out of Gratz Creek. Went clear through to Sutton.
And when the
Water went to them logs went to Sutton. They had what they call a boom. Logs put together, went across the river, and they floated them logs, come in there, they eased right across to the mill.
Mm-hmm.
Old Captain Curtin, this man logged this country, had to log.
Mm-hmm. How many men did it take to take a boom of logs down the river?
Well, they'd take the winter time when there's lots of water. Maybe they'd have 8 or 10 men along the river with cant hooks, kept them logs scattered. And whenever you get them rolled out, they'd float on down, maybe lodge somewhere. They'd go out, follow him up. The crew would start like over here on Grass Creek, and they'd go through maybe to Sutton, follow them logs right in.
Any of them ever get away from them?
Oh, sure, yeah. Sometimes the river would get up and raise the boom logs and go through and underneath.
Uh-huh. How'd they catch them?
Maybe never did catch them.
Ah.
Maybe never did catch them. But they was timbered that time.
Good-sized logs.
Yes. Some of them you could walk up and stick your chin with and touch the top of the top end of a log.
If somebody were to ask you to, you could go back several years when you were 14 years of age again, and you had a chance to be something else besides lumberman.
I wouldn't do it. No, I wouldn't do it at all. Oh, I've had a chance to go in the mines different times. If I don't mind skimming it, but I ain't going to gutter. It's too dark back there on the hill. I can't see what I'm doing. On the outside, I can see.
You like this country, don't you?
Yes. It don't make any difference how steep the hill was. We went right up and just saying.
Our next event now, the underhand chop. Here's where precision work with the axe is of the utmost importance. One slip, and well, the consequences are obvious. These men will actually be standing on these 3.5-foot long logs and will sever the block with that razor-sharp axe coming within inches of their feet.
On the stage right now, we have a variety. We have Larry Sandy, Jim Colbert, Ron Johnson, and Gib Engel. A very close heat. Ron Johnson, along with Larry Sandy, both coming in very close. We'll find out what the final times are here in a little bit. There are only 2 heats in this event. And in the final heat are going to be those world champions. Even though 55 choppers began this competition yesterday, a total of 15 in different categories are being shown here today. The same 15 seem to have qualified for just about everything, from the cross-all competition to this final one, the standing block, along with the underhand. On stage right now, we have all world champions. On the left side is Jim Alexander from Victoria, Australia. At the second position is Dave Geer from Lisbon, Connecticut. At the third position is Rudy Dettmer, Youngstown, Ohio. And in number 4 position, the local favorite here, is the man that many people have been talking about, Arden Cogar. And he is a man that's held those 15 world championships. All of these men have multiple championships. The times here will be very close, it's expected. The times are going to be very, very important to each one of them. They're taking their time, making sure the chop comes in at the right direction.
We have never had before at any other festival such a conglomeration here of all of these world champions such as we have here today. They're ready to start now.
Arden Cogar seemed to be the man to go through it first. Of course, they're all working against the clock. Jim Alexander came in second. It was Rudy Dettmer in the third, and Dave Geer coming up. All, however, within split seconds of each other. We'll find out what the final judges' count is going to be and see who the final winner is going to be here of this heat. You can see the heavy breathing that's taking place out there. The men have not had that chance to really catch a breath from the last competition. So here's the finals. Here's how the tally comes out on the underhand chop, the underhand cut. In first place with 20.38 seconds
Arden Cogar from Webster Springs, West Virginia. In the second place, from Victoria, Australia, Jim Alexander, 20.58. Only 0.2 of a second between. At third place, Lisbon, Connecticut, once again well up in the standings, Dave Geer, 24.79 seconds. And in fourth place, also up in the standings throughout the day, Rudy Dettmer, age 34, from Youngstown, Ohio, 26.13 seconds. Of course, that means these two men, Arden Cogar and Jim Alexander, still running neck to neck in the overall competition. And the final chop-off, of course, will be held very shortly in that standing block chop. That'll be coming up right after the underhand chop handicap, which is next. The handicap event. This is one's a little strange, but a lot of fun. Bill Gillespie is the master of ceremonies here. He's the man that makes the final check on the logs and writes down the handicap number. That is the seconds these gentlemen have to wait until they can begin chopping. He talked to us about the rules of this event.
Well, it's a handicap event in that we try to gauge it so that the inexperienced boys have just as good a chance as those who are world championship caliber. So each year in the Southeastern United States Championships, which we're having here, and 2 or 3 other places in the nation, we have the handicap chop, and it means that you are rated or given a handicap according to your experience. If you're world championship caliber, your handicap is 24 seconds. And it goes down to 0. So when the gun goes off, those that have 0 can begin chopping right away. Those that have a 10-second handicap begin to chop at 10 seconds. Those at 15, 15. And those who are the best give everyone else a 24-second head start before they even get on the wood.
Here's the handicap.
Get ready.
Now here's going to be some slow action.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24.
Ladies and gentlemen, again we had to take a little wood hang up. I added a few seconds to the boys' time. Mighty fine wood and extra good chopping.
Woodchopping festivals began over a century ago as an effort to let off a little steam among those lumberjacks who spent the long, lonely hours in camps atop of mountains far away from family and home. But today, these festivals have grown to mean many things to many people, such as at the Webster County Courthouse Square, where we saw a variety of activities from chew tobacco spitting, that's right, chew tobacco spitting, to a man throwing an axe and hitting a target 30 feet away. This lovely young lady was up on the stage a little bit ago with a wad of chewing tobacco in her mouth, spitting. And Adie Hamry from here in West Virginia. And Adie, why do you spit chewing tobacco?
Oh, I like to spit. I like to enter contests. I've won 3 times.
Where have you won?
I won twice in Harrison County and once here in Webster County.
You were the champion.
Yeah, I was the champion. I spit 22 feet in Harrison County.
How long have you been chewing tobacco?
I don't chew tobacco. This is the first chew I've had since I was in the Civic Center in Charleston last year.
So
I don't chew it.
Just competition?
Just once a year I take a chew tobacco.
Professional chew tobacco spitter.
Yeah.
Lay it right out there. Lay it right out there. Oh, Lord have mercy, right up here, 19 2. Not a bad job. Not a bad job at all.
Clear on out here, your mic.
Hey, looky here, the perennial champion, the man that helped us out with the talking contest, the sawing contest. Turn his hat around, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that determined look in his eye, would you? His nose wrinkling up a little bit. Look at his shoes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most suspenseful moment you can have. I tell you, he's about ready. About a teacup and a half, I'd say. About a teacup and a half.
How come you choose that snug? We was going that way. I don't know.
His head's pinchy. It'll snap like a rooster. Look at that, will you, ladies and gentlemen? Look at it, will you?
Hobart Chris is a man who will climb upon that flatbed tractor trailer and literally take the whiskers off a couple of men. He shaves men with an axe, razor sharp. Hobart, how did you get into that kind of business?
More on a bet than anything else. I agreed to shave a man with an axe if they would have a chopping contest in the town I live in. They did call and say they were having the contest, and I had never dreamed of shaving anybody with an axe. I'd watched Dad do it for years when he was in it full time and was a world's champion. And they called and said it was on, so I had to get an axe ready and shave somebody. I did get one ready. It took me 3 weeks to do it, but at 5 o'clock that evening, it still wouldn't shave. But at 7:30, when it come time to put the axe to his face, I was able to take the whiskers off. I went to a fellow's house, a friend of mine, and asked him if he'd let me try it on him. I got down to his chin, and he said, "I can't stand it, it's pulling too much." So I knew I had some more work to do, and I hurried home, and I worked the axe down some more, and I went on it the last time with a razor hone. I said, "It's now or never," and I put it on a razor strop, and it was right. It just right.
5 minutes, sign up.
Was it as bad as you thought it would be?
Oh, it was great. The guy was good. It was smooth. It's better than doing it yourself.
You're going to grow another one for next year then?
That's better than I could do myself. I was surprised. It just peeled right off.
Boys is going to be participating.
So next year you'll come back with the same thing, right?
Maybe.
Thanks a lot. And now they're going to be coming forth for that chop-off, the final chop-off with Jim Alexander and Arden Cogar. Remember, earlier, they were in competition. They came down with the exact number of seconds. I mean the exact in the underhand, or on the standing block, rather. Cogar coming over to shake hands with Jim Alexander and with Bill Gillespie. This is it. This is the final countdown. Jim Alexander from Victoria, Australia. Arden Cogar, Webster Springs, West Virginia, the chop-off here, and the world champion. We're going to find out who the world's best is right now.
We're going to find out who's the best in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready, set, go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's on going. We're on now.
Arden Cogar, Alexander's axe caught once. Alexander's axe caught, and he was unable to complete the chop as he would have wanted to. Arden Cogar has taken him again. We'll come up with the final tally in just one moment. But the crowd, of course, is ecstatic for the man that comes from Webster Springs here, and that is Arden Cogar. They're going to come up with the final times for us. They were both very, very quick. They were both down to the final wire. And Cogar, of course, feeling very good about it right now. Jim Alexander just a split second behind him. And we're going to find out those times. We'll check with Alexander as soon as he catches his breath in just a moment. They're going to begin announcing the times. 6.86, 16.86, 16:09, a tremendous score here, a tremendous time for Arden Cogar as he brings it home to the folks here at Webster County, Webster Springs, West Virginia.
And we'll have the award ceremony beginning in just 1 minute. And first place, ladies and gentlemen, and winner of the trophy for this year, our hometown Arden Cogar. Bring it on.
Arden, it was close. It was right down to the wire.
I figured it would be, you know, for the start.
Yeah, I figured it'd be a close match. I was ready for it, and Jim's a hard cutter to beat any time, and he's a fine fellow with it. That's what I like. He's a good sportsman, and I love to chop off with a good sportsman.
Let me screw that arm more.
Jim, it looked like that axe caught one time.
Just once, yeah, just a little unlucky.
And that can make the difference.
He went too quick anyway.
Do you think had that not occurred that you could have stayed with him?
Oh, I wouldn't have been far away, yeah. There's not that much between us, but I congratulate him because I reckon it was a good win and a good race, and he's a good competitor.
Was it worth a trip here?
Oh, sure was, yeah. My word it was. I'd like to come again, too.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's it.
It's been a good day. Clouds are coming in a little bit. Looks like we might have some bad weather, but this weather's held out here this afternoon for about a record crowd here of several thousand people, and everybody's scurrying now to beat the rain, but we've had a beautiful day here all together.
The crowds are beginning to leave, and that's going to be it from Webster County, West Virginia. The annual Woodchopping Festival held here, this year sanctioned as the World Championship, and you saw one of the world champions, Arden Cogar, coming over top of the other, Jim Alexander. It was a tremendous effort on both. It was a chop-off, one that we'll all remember. Thank you very much, Cliff, for joining us here, and we would thank you very, very much for also tuning in, and possibly we'll see you again at the Webster County Woodchopping Festival in the Central Hills of West Virginia.
This program was made possible in part by a grant from the Eastern Educational Television Network.